Hi, good afternoon for the people in Flanders and good evening for the people in Singapore. My name is Kim Lemaitre and I am the Science and Technology Council for Flanders Investment and Trade based here in Singapore. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all to our webinar on innovation and startup landscape in Singapore that we are organizing together with VOCA Antwerpen Maaslands and with the support of Enterprise Singapore here in Singapore. During this seminar today, we will guide you through the startup landscape in Singapore and give you more information on a few upcoming events that we are scheduling together with VOCA as well. I'll try to give you some insights in why Singapore is the startup hub for Southeast Asia and what you need to do to make sure that your startup can work and start here successfully. I will do that together with, as I already mentioned, VOCA and Enterprise Singapore, and also with a testimonial by Benny Willem, who participated in a program by VOCA 2 years ago here in Singapore. I'm not sure, I will give the word to Laurence Menton of VOCA for a very short introduction as well, and then we can start with the seminar.
Thank you, Kim. So my name is Laurence. I work for the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Antwerp, and we're very happy to bring you all here for the webinar Innovation and Startup Landscape in Singapore together with FIT. So we're looking forward to a very interesting webinar.
Thank you, Laurence. To start, I will give you a short introduction about Singapore and the innovation and startup landscape here. But I will start with Flanders Investment and Trade as a short introduction, just about who we are. Flanders Investment and Trade our aim is to help companies and startups based in Flanders to export and internationalize so they can grow. We do this through several ways. So we are a government agency from the government of Flanders, and we work for Singapore for the whole region of Asia Pacific. So we have our regional headquarters here in Singapore, which also includes which is one of the 10 offices we have in the region that you can see here. So Asia Pacific for us is everything east of Bangladesh. Bangladesh is not included, but Myanmar is. And so we have as biggest countries, China, Korea, Japan, China I will mention, but Taiwan as well. Singapore, of course, Melbourne, Vietnam, Thailand, and Hong Kong, where we are based. We have economic representatives in all of these offices, and we have also 2 science and technology offices with science and technology councils like myself, who focus on specific areas in life sciences, climate, and digital to support specific questions from our companies in Flanders and also from our companies abroad. Within Flanders Investment and Trade, we have Startup Flanders, which is a unique and independent representative of the full Flemish startup ecosystem. Startup Flanders brings together expertise and the complete Flemish ecosystem as the first point of contact, where they work together with startups and scale-ups, incubators, universities, industry clusters, VCs, and cities. This allows us to give a complete overview of the startup innovation landscape in Flanders and also to support international growth for our startups. We help our companies through advice on local markets and business contexts, also organizing events, participation in those events. We do that both virtually and in place. We also do some open innovation challenges together with some companies from time to time. We organize trade missions together alone or together with partners like VOCA. We do B2B programs for our business with potential business partners abroad. And we also provide subsidies for trade fair participation or prospection offices abroad. We do this in close collaboration here in Singapore with our partners, Enterprise Singapore and EDB Singapore, who are our counterparts from the local government. Now, talking about Singapore as a global gateway and hub to Southeast Asia, it's first of all important to understand that Flanders and Singapore are actually quite similar. We both have very limited, a limited population, a bit limited markets of around 6 million people. We have very limited or no natural resources, and we have land constraints. However, Singapore, looking at Singapore, it's one of the best places in the world to do business. It's ranked #1 in the Economist Intelligence Unit's ranking of last year as the most innovative, best place to do business in the world. It's also one of the hub of choice for EU firms around Southeast Asia. So there's around 4,200 companies, MNCs and multinational companies that have their regional office for Southeast Asia here in Singapore. And they use that as a hub to really conquer the whole of Southeast Asia because Singapore is well connected, both in transport and centrally located, but also has a very advantageous regime that I'm sure Esther of Enterprise Singapore will talk about a little bit later. We also see that for Flanders, entities, Singapore is a preferred landing spot, as I already mentioned. So we have several companies that have startups that have already put Singapore on the map as their regional center for Southeast Asia. And these are just a group of the startups, but in total we have around 100 companies from Singapore, from Flanders that are active here in Singapore. Now, how come that Singapore become an innovation and startup hub? As I mentioned in the beginning, they have very limited natural resources, so they use the resources that they have, which is the brains of their people, just like Flanders. Singapore ranks globally as fourth on the Global Innovation Index, which means that they are quite innovative. And in the next few slides and part of the presentation, I will elaborate a bit on how they achieved this position. They are the #1 in Southeast Asia, East Asia and Oceania, even before Korea and China. And globally, as I mentioned, #4. Now, this is a very complicated slide on our political organization of Singapore and how everything's organized. But I want you to remember only 2 or 3 things from this slide. Singapore is a very centrally led government country. So the government has a central role within the Singapore economy. They do this with several ministries, but each ministry has almost their own innovation cluster. But this is all coordinated in a central organ, namely the National Research Foundation, that depends on the Ministry of the Office of the Prime Minister, and is supported by the Future Economy Council. It's quite similar to the triple helix that we see in Flanders, with companies, the government, and institutes of higher learning, academia. But here, the government is really the central actor. They spend a large chunk of their budget also in innovation and research that is coordinated by a 5-year plan called the Research, Innovation and Enterprise Plan. As you can see here, the budget, this works, as I mentioned, this works with 5-year plans, and the budget for this Research and Innovation plan has increased significantly over the past few years. And since the first plan in 1991, that was developed in 1991, it has more than tenfolded its budget, which means that they have a lot of means to focus on research, innovation, and enterprise. So it's one of the core principles of the Singapore development to have research, innovation, enterprise, but with a strong focus. So first of all, they have a diversified portfolio. They have a lot of mission-oriented research, but they also work a lot on capacity building, talent development, and innovation and enterprise activities. And very interesting, which I always find interesting, is the white space that they have. So 15% of the budget is actually allocated to white space, meaning that they reserve this budget for unexpected events. And one of those unexpected events was COVID, where Singapore was actually able to deploy a lot of budget quite fast for COVID-related activities, be it in how to disinfect spaces, how to develop testing facilities and testing capacity, but also work on biotech research in order to make sure that medicine is available in Singapore itself, and they had the best medical researchers and medical advancements for protection of the Singapore population. They work on the second focus that they have is focusing on strategic sectors for Singapore, and this is actually provided or guided by some of the existential threats that Singapore has and its economy. So 20% of Singapore's economy is related to manufacturing, trade, and connectivity, or even more. So 20% related to manufacturing and about 20% also to trade and connectivity. So obviously, Singapore spends a lot of money on research in these fields. The second part, as I already mentioned, Singapore has only a limited population of around 6 million people. So they want to optimize human health and the potential of Singaporeans to contribute to the economy. This is, of course, also a focus sector for their research and development. Then thirdly, Singapore is basically a big city on 800 square kilometers, which for reference is about a little bit bigger than the city of Antwerp. So they focus a lot on urban solutions and sustainability. And then finally, they also work on smart nation and digital economy. Almost all of the government here is digitalized with a lot of applications, and all of the communication with the government also done in a digital way. And they do this through combining academic research, manpower, and innovation and enterprise. If you look at the global startup ecosystem in 2024, Singapore is ranked 7th globally by a report of the Startup Genome. But you have to know that Singapore actually in the early 2000s didn't have any startups or very limited startup scenes. The Singapore government actually understood that they were missing the boat, and that innovation and startups were important and crucial for the survival of the Singapore economy. So they started a $500 million program to promote startups in Singapore. They went through their own valley of debt in the early 2010s, where there were not a lot of deals, where there were not a lot of startups. But after that, it picked up quite significantly. And you can see the numbers here who speak for themselves. The ecosystem value is over $140 billion. They have 14 unicorns that they have produced, with a lot of early stage funding as well. So you can see that especially in early stage funding, there is a lot of activity, both private and from the government itself. From the private sector, they use their position as one of the finance capitals of Southeast Asia to mobilize money in their ecosystem health or in their ecosystem growth. They also do some medium seed funding and a few exits as well. Total VC funding is 24 billion over the past 4 years, or in the period of 2019-2023. And we have also had, as I mentioned already, several exits. So they have a quite mature ecosystem that has produced a lot of unicorns already, and it is very open also to international startups coming to Singapore. There are a few catches, of course. The Singapore government wants you to be in Singapore to add to the Singapore economy. But if you do that, you can also apply for a lot of grants, a lot of support, also ecosystem support from the government. But again, I think Esther will tell you a little bit more about that. As I mentioned, there are a few national issues here related to the land constraints, related to cities, related to human health, but also, for example, related to food production. Only 1% of Singapore's land is dedicated to agriculture, but of course they have a population of 6 million to feed, which leads to a few plans. For example, 30 by 30, the national plan to provide 30% of Singapore's nutritional needs by 2030. And you see that the government, being centrally motivated or very centrally organized, then mobilizes funds and resources to make sure that they can achieve their goals. For example, to startups. So there's an ecosystem related to food. There's a large ecosystem related to fintech, which is very important here. A large ecosystem related to manufacturing, to logistics, but also to finance, for example, where they try to combine their innovation prowess towards the issues that they have here. So one of the key messages, I think, is also to if you want to explore Singapore as a market, try to find your niche within the Singapore ecosystem, within the Singapore priorities in order to be successful. We are going a bit fast, actually. I thought I would be slower, but okay. This webinar today is actually a combination of several webinars. It's the first in a series related to Switch itself and related to the potential mission of VOCA to Singapore in November, and you will learn more about that later. But the first thing I would like to highlight is an upcoming webinar, which is called The Big Leap. It's a series organized by Startup Flanders, for which the first webinar will take on Tuesday, May 27th, where we will go deeper in some of the subjects that we have already discussed today. The big push towards open innovation, how you can identify innovation challenges and tap on those to develop your market here in Singapore, and what are the opportunities for the pilot deployment and partnerships. We will send information about this webinar to all participants in the webinar today, so you can learn more about Singapore and the opportunities here related to that. And of course, I also want to make some publicity, and I'm sure that Esther will do this later as well. She will come back to this, towards Slingshot and Switch. Switch is the Singapore Week of Innovation and Technology 2025. So it's a yearly event powered by Startup Singapore that will take place in the last week of October. And it's basically the startup event for Southeast Asia, where there are a few thousands of people, 20,000 people, if I'm not mistaken, but Esther will correct me, that visit Singapore, the exhibition. And this is a mix of VCs, startups, and founders that are looking for opportunities. There's also a competition related to this, a pitching competition, Slingshot, which is an open competition where startups can apply to pitch their idea for Slingshot. The best 60, there will be a selection where the best 60 will be selected and invited to come to Singapore and pitch on stage for an opportunity to win a startup package here in Singapore that Esther will explain also later. There is a webinar related to this tomorrow at the same time. So if you would be interested to learn more about that, you can register already here. They will explain in more detail what Slingshot and Switch are about and how you can apply for that. To conclude, I will just do a short introduction of the team here in Singapore. We are currently 7 here in Singapore for Flanders Investment and Trade. We are currently hiring an 8th person, but you can count on us to support you for your expansion, both in Singapore and in the region, through the tools that I have explained before. Of course, also with the support of our local team of our headquarters in Brussels. So don't hesitate to reach out to us if you would have any further questions after this webinar. That concludes my part. I would now like to give the floor to Esther Bui of Enterprise Singapore to explain a little bit more about Slingshot and Enterprise Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for the sharing. I think you took some of the words out of my mouth for what I wanted to share about Singapore. So I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Esther. I'm from Enterprise Singapore, and I'll be here to share a bit more about Singapore as a global innovation node, as well as a bit more about Slingshot as well as Switch. So for myself, I take care of Slingshot, so I'll be covering it later. So with respect to what Kim said about the webinar tomorrow, don't worry about it. Actually, I'll be covering it today in my sharing. So if you have any questions, you can take this opportunity to ask. Yeah. So Enterprise Singapore, we champion enterprise development and work with committed companies to build capabilities, innovate, and as well as go global. And we also support the growth of Singapore as a hub for global training and startups. So before I dive into the programs and activities for Switch and Slingshot this year, just thought it would be good to give a flavor of why Singapore is and continues to be a global Asia node for innovation. Yep, so I'll be elaborating a bit more about what Kim said about Singapore. Yep, so Singapore has consistently ranked top 10 globally across various ecosystem reports, as you saw just now, such as Startup Genome, Startup Blink, WIPO. Yeah, and just to quickly summarize, there are 3 reasons we think, why we have been able to achieve this. Firstly, being strategically located with world-class connectivity and strong market access has really helped us to grow, especially with markets such as China, India, and Vietnam. Yeah, we will continue to be committed to pursue good relations with these countries, other countries as well. And secondly, is our pro-business environment that's supported by a strong talent pool with a strong IP protection. And thirdly, is our strong commitment for innovation that is backed by continuous reviews of existing measures and pivoting when necessary. So, for example, like our National Research Fund that looks at how and where the direction of innovation is going in Singapore, there are regular reviews for such things and different policy shifts. Yeah, and so we do have institutes such as NUS, which ranks the National University of Singapore, which ranks third in Asia, and the Nanyang Technological University, which ranks fourth in Asia. So we do have over 30 institutes of higher learning, as well as a varied ecosystem of over 40,000 researchers, and our researcher intensity is about 12.2, so which is within the ranks of other countries such as Netherlands and France. Yeah, and we do have over 4,005 tech startups, including deep tech ventures across 30 areas. Yeah, so this is something that we like to boast about when we talk about our vibrant startup ecosystem. Yeah, so Singapore continues to yield strong positive returns for our investments, as well as especially our deep tech investments. Yeah, and health tech continues to remain a focal point of interest post-pandemic, with some examples like precision medicine, digital therapeutics, and green tech investments also continue to gather strong momentum for us. And as well as quantum, with over 400 mil invested in research and development since 2002. Yeah, so our Center for Quantum Technologies ranks 6th worldwide for quantum research. So after this, goes straight into Switch, which is a Singapore Week of Innovation and Technology. So I'll be sharing a bit more about what this year means for the team and for us here at Enterprise Singapore, as well as what you can expect. So Switch will return this year for our 10th anniversary from the 29th to the 31st of October this year. So this year is a particularly special year for us because we are at the intersection of two very important milestones. First being Singapore's 60th birthday and our Switch's 10th edition. And we are proud to announce that Switch has been selected as one of the SG60's signature events and the only enterprise event on the calendar. So we are growing, Switch is growing. Like Kim mentioned just now, we did have over 20,000 unique delegates last year, which is a 33% increase from 2023. Yeah, and our international attendance was at 5,000 plus last year, and we expect it to grow this year. And as we grow as a show, we're also conscious of not diluting the crowd, and hence we try very hard to ensure that there's more than 50% of our attendees who are senior decision makers, such as founders and C-suites. And our startups naturally make up a bulk of the companies that attend Switch as an innovation show, but we do have a good mix of the other parts of the ecosystem as well. For example, our institutes of higher learning, and then global MNCs, as well as tech solution providers and government agencies. We have also made strides in attracting the investor community, with more than 1,006 attendees holding investor job titles. Yeah, so I just wanted to show a quick sample of the type of speakers that we have had across our content programming for Switch. So we do have from our Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Heng Swee Keat, all the way to Dr. Eric Toon from Breakthrough Energy, to Quek Syria, our very own local unicorn Carousel, as well as Mr. Elias Khan and Mr. Paul Santos, as well as Mr. Vishal from 500 Global. So this is a quick snapshot of the partners that have supported Switch, and the numbers will continue to grow, we think, this year. So from global MNCs such as AMD, Lenovo, and Microsoft to our very own local partners, we do bring together the whole ecosystem at Switch. And you might hear us stressing on global, and that is really a conscious effort on our part to connect the global ecosystem at Switch. We do also have a bilateral program called Global Partners Pavilion, where our partners would bring in their best-in-class startups to Singapore, for example, Flinders. And of course, we do have the local ecosystem that comes together, of which we have more than 120 of them. Yeah, so for the meat of the Switch presentation today, just wanted to share a bit more about the programming as well as the opportunities for Switch this year. So we do have enhanced programming across the Switch week to reflect SG60 as well as Switch's 10th anniversary. And just now you heard me share that Switch would be from the 29th to 31st October, and you might be wondering why there's a pre-conference on the 28th. Well, we will be holding lab crawls this year. They're island-wide, and we would like anyone who is attending Switch who might be interested in what the lab ecosystem might look like in Singapore to come join this island-wide lab crawl. So we used to have it on the day 2 of Switch, but we thought that having it across one full day would be able to provide our trade visitors the access to our global and to see our behind the scenes of how this ecosystem operates, and as well as to meet the community. So as you can see, some other enhancements also include an expansion of our program. For example, our community open day, where we'll be bringing together other STEM and innovation communities at Switch. Yeah, so on top of that, we are looking to have a community open house on the 31st of October, where you'll be able to see a curated list of programs to engage our youth in Singapore, to encourage them to pursue innovation, as well as a glimpse of what the youth innovation scene in Singapore looks like with our youth hackathons, hands-on workshops, and many more. Yeah, so this year, we have streamlined our deep tech focus sectors to 4 areas so that you can see we remain our strategic interests for deep tech in Singapore. And we hope to reflect these domain areas across various touchpoints at Switch, such as manufacturing, trade and connectivity, health and biomed, environment, energy and green technology, as well as transformative digital technology. On top of that, we also have Beyond, which is a part of Switch, which is paid sectoral stage, where there will be thought leadership content across Asia with the perspective and focus on deep tech. So these sessions will feature keynote speakers at fireside chats and panel discussions. So in summary, while we cover mainly Switch and Slingshot today, we wanted you to take away that Singapore welcomes you all year round. And if you are looking to establish your presence here in Singapore, there's stage 1, which I will share a little bit about later after Slingshot. And that would be a new initiative launched last year to be the first stop platform for global startups who see Singapore as their next destination going global. Yeah. And if you'd like to connect with Singapore's startup ecosystem more immediately, we do have our Startup SG network, our online repository of more than 4,500 startups, 220 accelerators and incubators, as well as many event listings of the latest happenings in the startup community month on month. So at this point, I just finished my sharing on Switch, and I will be going on to sharing about Slingshot. So not to worry, if you do have any questions, there will be a time for Q&A later, and then feel free to ask in the chat or ask us, and I'll be happy to answer them. Yep, so for Slingshot, we are back for our 9th edition, and we are a global deep tech startup pitching competition that's been organized by Enterprise Singapore with the aim of anchoring high potential, innovative foreign and local startups into Singapore. And Slingshot finals are held at Switch, which I mentioned just now is Asia's leading deep tech festival. So since the competition started in 2017, Slingshot has received over 30,000 applications from over 160 markets, with some of our 50 winners going on to raise over USD 500 mil in investments post-competition. And this competition has also been graced by over 500 international judges and mentors who are industry experts, startup ecosystem players, as well as investors. Yeah. So just wanted to quickly shout out our Hall of Fame for our past 3 years of grand winners. We have MapWorks Technology and Peptide Biotics, which are based in Singapore. And Thermalytical, which is our 2023 grand winner, has since set up a subsidiary in Singapore. And they have also secured a proof of concept project with a contracted public transport operator to test their insulating nanomaterials impact. Yeah, so this year we're also continuing our search for new and exciting startups with innovative solutions to compete in any of our 4 challenge domains, being manufacturing, trade, and connectivity. Secondly is health and biomedical. Third is environment, energy, and green technologies. Fourth is transformative digital technologies. So I just also wanted to take this time to quickly run through the qualifying criteria for applications. Slingshot is accepting applications from international startups with a minimum viable product that can illustrate initial signs of traction and have intellectual property over their technology or solutions. So these startups would still need to be developing their innovation and need to be less than 10 years old since their time of inception. They also should not be a subsidiary of a corporate entity. And last and most importantly, we hope that our startup applicants have the goal of setting up their business here in Singapore. So just to share a little bit more about the roadmap for Slingshot 2025, we have launched and opened our call for applications in the middle of March, and we will be keeping it open until the 11th of July. So if anyone is interested in applying for Slingshot, please quickly apply while the window is still open. So after Slingshot applications come to a close on the 11th of July, we would be having 2 rounds of judging. The first phase ending on 8th of September, of which the top 250 startups would be selected. And our 250 startups would need to submit their pitch video by the 24th of October before the second phase of judging, which will conclude on the 5th of September. So after which our top 60 global startups will be identified, and we will be contacting them to make travel arrangements for a sponsored trip down to Singapore, where accommodation and economy class flight would be covered. So we would be flying our top 60 global startups down in time for in our physical immersion program, which will be happening between the 24th to 27th October. So this will be ahead of Slingshot Finals, which will be held at Switch. So we are also especially excited this year to announce that our grand prizes for our top 3 Slingshot winners have doubled from previous years. And this is to increase the attractiveness of the competition, as well as to enhance our efforts to anchor foreign startups here. So our grand winner will stand to win a 400,000 Startup SG grant, while our first runner-up wins 300,000, and our second runner-up takes home 200,000 in grand prize. On top of that, our top 12 domain winners will receive 60,000 each. So to share and expound a bit more about the Slingshot Immersion program, our top 60 startups who have been shortlisted will receive a sponsored trip, as I mentioned earlier, and this would be to attend an immersion program from the 24th to the 27th of October, and these startups will be introduced to potential investors and corporate partners through networking opportunities, as well as the local startup ecosystem here in Singapore. So in addition to that, they will also receive dedicated one-to-one pitch coaching and mentorship from industry experts. Yep, so this slide is to quickly outline the application process for Slingshot. So I've broken the application process down into 3 simple questions. Firstly, which challenge domain does your solution belong to? Whether it's to the environment, energy, or green technologies, or whether it's to the health and biomedical, or whether it's to manufacturing, trade, and connectivity, or lastly, our transformative digital technologies. So after figuring out which domain your solution falls under, you can prepare a 10-page slide deck with the following to address the following 10 points, which would be your problem and solution. your market and total addressable market. And thirdly, your value proposition and your positioning. Fourthly is your go-to-market strategy. And we would also like to know your business or revenue model. And then your traction, any KPI metrics or milestones, and then your forecast for FY 2025-2026. And lastly, your team presentation. Yep. So after you have prepared your 10-page slide deck, please fill out the application form. You can, I'll pause here for a minute, for a quick few seconds. You can scan the QR code on the slide where it will lead you to the challenge page. So you can submit your application along with your slide deck by 11th of July. So that will be all for sharing of Slingshot. If you do have any questions about the application process, feel free to let me know and feel free to type in the chat or ask later during the Q&A. And touch on the last portion of this presentation, which will be on Stage 1. So Stage 1 is a new one-stop platform. There is a joint initiative by Enterprise Singapore, the Economic Development Board, and collaboration with JTC. And this new one-stop platform is aimed at connecting local and global tech startups to drive opportunities for collaboration between startups, corporates, as well as innovation partners. So ACE.SG is the appointed operator for Stage 1, and Stage 1 will offer programs and services to help their startups establish their base from Singapore and to help them integrate into the local ecosystem. So more details on Stage 1 will be shared. But in the meantime, if you do have any questions, you can scan this QR code or you can reach out to Yingshi or Dingshi, who are on the Stage 1 team. If you do have any questions with regards to the process of incorporation, or if you would like to be linked up with anyone in Singapore, you can let us know. Yeah. So after my lengthy presentation, I have come to the end. And thank you so much for giving me your time, even as I shared about the various programs in Singapore. So I'll be handing the time back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther, and also for the nice collaboration. Indeed, Flanders Investment and Trade has been part of Switch for the past 3 years now, and we will be part again in the booth at Switch this year, and we're always happy to do that. Also for the startups that are listening and thinking, how could I potentially qualify for this? I would say just follow the process. Last year, unfortunately, we had no startups, but the year before we did have one startup from Flanders that made it to the top 50. So don't hesitate, just try. And if I'm sure that you stand a chance as well. It's not that it's impossible to reach because there's so many applicants. If you have a good product, a good solution, I'm sure that you can find your way into that. So thank you for sharing that. I will go back to Q&A later, and I still urge you, if you have some questions, please share them in our chat. But I will now give the floor to Benny Willem of Cloudalize, who visited Singapore 2 years ago as part of the mission organized by VOCA, to share a bit on his experience.
Thank you, Kim. So yes, as a little testimonial, let me perhaps start by introducing myself. We are a deep tech company. I co-founded the company, and I went 2 years ago with VOCA to Singapore when I was CEO of Cloudalize. Now, meanwhile, Cloudalize has been sold to another company where I'm now responsible for AI. I've been here now for a year, and I will leave by the end of the month. But I still have good contacts with some people that I met in Singapore when I went over there, and we still have actually our most important customer is also a company that is from the region, which is Telekom Malaysia. But maybe to start on why did I participate to this mission? We had noticed already from inbound leads and leads that we had a lot of traction in Southeast Asia, and somehow for years it was in my mind there's something happening there in Singapore, and then I used to be there in January, I by accident, and I had some meetings, and I thought, well, I need to come back and really focus, which I did then with this program. It was a fantastic experience. I'm extremely happy about everything that I got out of it. Of course, I went for the commercial traction, for the business development reasons, and I came back with 13, I would say, excellent prospects that were the results, of course, from many meetings. To give you an idea, on the one of the most valuable things that I got out of this is during the program, many events were organized, and at one of these events, there was an older person who was from Singapore who was there and was just starting to talk with him, and I figured out that this person used to work at the Building Construction Authority in Singapore, which is a part of the government. And he explained to me how they had a problem that we actually could solve with our solution. And somehow that was extremely valuable because, as Kim well explained, if you can solve a problem that the government has, and you can approach it in the right way with the right partners and the right credibility and you know, in the right angle, because you talk to one of the insiders, that is extremely valuable. But there are many other valuable things that we got out of it commercially. And I would say all those leads came from different sources. Of course, an important source is the effort you put in yourself in advance, but also VOCA was supportive. By the way, also Kim has brilliant ideas and knows the Belgian ecosystem there in Singapore very well. This is actually one of the things that was very insightful, but there is a Belgian community, so of Belgian people that that live there in Singapore, and they come often together, and some of them know each other quite well, and it's very interesting and easy for you to connect with them face to face when you are there. So it was quite interesting and valuable. But also, I was surprised at how valuable just the chance meetings were that happened during the week that we were there, by just you know, talking to people that participate in these events. My tips and tricks and advice would be, don't overload your agenda with all kinds of meetings, because the program itself is valuable. The people you will meet there are valuable and interesting. For example, we are an AI company, and one of these events there, I got to meet the chairman of SG Tech, responsible for AI, and then I had a one-on-one follow-up on with this person, who introduced me to another person, and so these kind of things are valuable. Another tip or trick would be to try and meet the EDB representative, as EDB is a very important institution that can help you a lot, as was the case for us, and with the help of FIT and VOCA, it's much easier to get in touch with this person, don't underestimate the amount of networking value you can get out of it next to commercial traction. Don't underestimate the funding aspect of it as well, if you are looking for that. And what remains with me 2 years down the road is also the go-to-market insights, knowing that ecosystem, the organizations, the players, have all been extremely valuable. As I explained now, one of our current largest customers is Telecom Malaysia, which is Malaysia, but somehow very closely tied with Singapore and Southeast Asia and the thinking around it. And that has all proven to be extremely valuable. So yeah, I can highly recommend to participate, to do this. It'll definitely give a boost. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benny, for the very interesting and complete testimonial. I'm going to do the last presentation of this webinar now. So I'm going to share my screen for a second. I hope this is visible for everyone. So hello, my name is Laurence. I work at TCI VOCA Antwerpen-Waasland, as mentioned before. And I'd like to explain to you a little bit more about our Tech Adventure program for Flemish entrepreneurs who want to explore the Singaporean markets, who want to expand their business there. I'm going to apologize because my presentation is in Dutch, but I'm going to do the presentation itself in English, so interrupt me if something's not clear, of course. Why did we decide to do a Tech Adventure program? Which is actually because we noticed a lot of Flemish startups and scale-ups who wanted to internationalize, who saw the value in that because of an expanded market, because of a larger customer potential, larger investor potential as well, of course, but they got some roadblocks ahead. The most important ones are summed up here, which were a lack of market research, which were they didn't have the right feeling with the local culture, local habits, the local network, which was missing. Their brand awareness was missing in the local markets, and also it wasn't really clear to them what kind of capital they had to have in-house to expand internationally in a sustainable way. So we noticed a lot of trends in that with those roadblocks, and we decided to create a program called Tech Adventure to help Flemish entrepreneurs internationalize abroad. What is Tech Adventure? The Tech Adventure program to Singapore is actually a program which takes up to 3 months, and it gives a total overview of the Singaporean market, of everything you need to know about Singapore, what there is to know. And it's a programming group. So we have 10 other tech founders in which you will go on this adventure. We will start here in Flanders with 2 days of introductory speakers, experts, which are going to meet a go-to-market strategy, which is going to be evolved, experts on finance, on insurances, on IP, which are going to prepare you for the visits. And then afterwards, we will also go to Singapore. We're starting the 23rd and 24th of June of this year with this program, which will be the first 2 days here in Flanders. Afterwards, in September and October, there will be more sessions here in Flanders to prepare you for the visit, which will actually take place from the 3rd to the 7th of November in 2025. And the attentive participants might notice that it's right after Switch and the Slingshot final. So we intentionally chose that date so you can combine both of them, which makes for a very interesting visit and program to Singapore. The visit itself is also comprised of local experts getting to know the local ecosystem, also having one-on-ones with partners, clients, every potential interesting person you want to meet. We can try to get you a one-on-one meeting with them. And also we do pitching competition together with Singapore University. We did it last year. So that's is an interesting program in that way. We have 30 plus tech founders which have already been through the program. I have kind of a video on that for some people from our last Tech Adventure Singapore program who want to their testimonial through that. So I'm going to play it now. I hope everyone can hear.
Ja, we hadden contact met een lokale keten die headquarters zijn hier van Luxe Resort Properties. Die een deal hebben geclosed, nu ook tijdens deze week. Dus dat is beter konden we niet wensen.
We hebben hier bij Delaware eigenlijk geleerd dat pricing hier helemaal anders te werk gaat dan bij ons. Dus vanmiddag zitten we samen met een paar potentiële klanten. Dus ik denk dat over de middag we heel wat aanpassingen gaan maken aan onze slides en hopelijk op die manier iets op papier kunnen krijgen deze middag.
Ja, wij willen echt bekijken wat het voor ons betekent om naar hier te komen als strategische hub voor de Southeast Asia. En dat is tijdens het traject van Tech Adventure Singapore wel echt heel duidelijk geworden. Welke concrete stappen dat wij moeten nemen als wij naar hier willen komen.
Via de events dat we hier gedaan hebben, zijn er heel relevante mensen op ons pad verschenen, dat ik anders nooit was tegengekomen. Dus enorm dankbaar dat ik dat heb kunnen doen en daardoor hopelijk heel mooie vervolgstappen mogelijk zijn.
Ja, we hadden contact met de lokale.
These are some more reviews from the last edition. You can see businesses like SciLife, LifePower, ExpectMe, and also Cloudlights, of course, which have already participated in the program. I'm not going to read them out to you, but you'll get a presentation afterwards. So if you want to read them, of course. These are some more participants we have helped the program in Singapore and in the US. You see SciLife here, Premium Plus went with us to the US. You see DocFlow. So we have a lot of really inspiring companies which have already participated. If you want to know more, you can plan a meeting with me through the QR code. I will put it up for a moment here, or you can always send me an email through my email address, laurence.mente@voca.be. Maybe just a slight recap. So we're starting in 23rd and 24th of June here in Belgium with a total trajectory on what you need to know about Singapore before going there. Then from the 3rd until the 7th of November, we're going there with a group of 10 tech founders from tech startups and scale-ups in Flanders. And afterwards, we also still have some guidance, so one-on-one meetings with us. We don't let you go. You still get some coaching from us to really go there and expand your business to Singapore. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Laurence. I haven't seen any Q&A or any questions in the chat. I don't see anything coming in. I see nobody typing. No worries. I hope it means that everything was clear and that you don't have any questions at this moment. But please don't hesitate to join us later if you would have any questions. I think you have all our contact details. You can also contact the organizers of the webinar through the invitation that you got to ask any further questions you might have. And we're always happy to support you both from the three parties, both FIT, VOCA, and Enterprise Singapore, to help you on your internationalization path. Thank you very much for your participation today. Looking forward to be in touch with you and hopefully meet you here in Singapore. Bye.